folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, it's a wet day today. All these storms blowing through. I know many of you are probably experiencing the same storms that we are, and we've been pretty fortunate up here. We thought we were going to get some pretty bad weather, and that's what they were telling us on the news. And it turns out we got a lot of rain, and it's still coming down. And we did get some pretty high winds, but nothing was damaged, and so we were very fortunate in that area. But for those of you that are dealing with it or that will deal with it, certainly be prepared for that. When we talk about preparedness on here, we're not just talking about, the ending of the world as we know it type of events. These naturally occurring events of weather, and I know some of you say, well, there may not be that natural anymore with all the manipulation. That's another subject for another video. The point is we should prepare for this kind of stuff too. I made a video yesterday over on my Patreon channel of some tips on how to get ready for a storm in case you have to hurry up and leave. If you're in an area and there's a tornado coming and your decision is to get out of there for a while, there's some ways, and I call it the storm bucket, and it's something that you can do to quickly leave and take the things that you need with you. Anyways, but certainly be aware of your weather. You'd feel real silly and really bad if you're the ultimate prepper for the end of the world and the storm comes through and you're not ready for that. That's the most likely type of things that's going to happen to us. I want to talk today about, it's kind of several different things, but I'm trying to put it all into one thought, so maybe bear with me on this. Sometimes, some of you may be like this. I'm definitely like this all the time. I have all these thoughts in my head, and in my head they sound like a really good idea how I put them all together. But occasionally I have a little difficult time getting them out of my mouth and making them sound as good as they do in my head. So we're going to see if I can make that work in this video. Just some things that I've been seeing in different areas that kind of connect and things that maybe you'd be interested in hearing about. Because I think as we're preparing and going down this journey, and we all realize things are getting worse. We all realize that it's just a constant change and worsening of conditions in multiple different areas that are causing us to, many of you, to really kind of stand up, wake up, and get ready for what's heading towards us. We often are trying to figure out how much time we have left. Well, we don't know. I mean, we just don't know. Things could fall off the cliff tomorrow. There's all kinds of scenarios that within a short amount of time, within the next days or few weeks, that could happen that could make the situation so much worse than it is. And those are possibilities. But if you just look at what's happening, and as long as things continue down the same path, there are some times that you can say, well, I would say by this point in time, by this time, it's going to probably start to get bad. And that's really where I want to take today's video. When you start to stand back and you look at all the things that are happening, not including the possibility of some kind of big event, and that could be something like a world war, us getting engaged with Russia or China in some type of conflict. I would guess that by this fall, end of summer, fall, and first of winter, in that time period, that little window there, things are going to start getting pretty bad. And I want to point out some things that kind of is leading me that direction, and there's certainly more. These are just a few things that's kind of been in my mind and what I've noticed in the last few hours or days. But there's more. I just won't get into that. I think a lot of you can think of several things too, and the first one is just this whole food scenario. Is food in short supply now? There's definitely the price increases. That's immediate. That's something that you're not thinking that could happen months down the road. It's happening now. It's been happening, and it's worsening. Yesterday they released the consumer price inflation numbers. It was like 8.5%. We all know that that's baloney. And today they released the producer price numbers, and they were like 11.2. I would say at this point, you can pretty much double those numbers, and you're probably going to get some more accuracy if you just double them. It's becoming even mainstream now that a lot of news sources are saying that these are not accurate numbers. It's become extremely apparent if you just look at the individual items that the inflation of individual items. You can see that none of them are that low. So we know that that's happening. We're seeing it on a monthly basis. We're seeing it on a weekly basis in some areas where prices are going up. Food shortages, on the other hand, we as Americans are seeing food shortages in the respect of the shelves aren't as full as we expect them to be. They're just not capable. The whole system, the food supply system, is not capable of keeping up in a way that when you go to the store, most everything that you intended to purchase is there, and they have a pretty decent supply of it. We're seeing lots and lots of gaps more and more on shelves, and there are certain items that are becoming very difficult to get. That's not going to get any better, okay? And we have expanded on this quite a bit. I mean, look at Ukraine and Russia, the war over there. And of course, that's getting blamed for a lot of it, and that's not what I'm going to talk about. Just the fact that Ukraine is considered one of the biggest bread baskets of the world. They produce a massive amount of food. And maybe not all of that comes here to the United States, but it definitely feeds a lot of people. Well, they've had a hard time harvesting their winter wheat, obviously because of the war. But more importantly, they're having a hard time planting. This is the time of the year that you plant, okay? And they're having a hard time doing it because they're at war. They have an invader, and there's whole fields that are littered with, war debris. There's a lot of the men that would be plowing and tilling and planting the fields are defending their country. At the very best case scenario, from the numbers that I'm looking at, they might be able to plant 50%. And I doubt that that's even, going to be happening. And part of it is the majority of the land of Ukraine that is used for crops is all on the eastern side, where all the war is actually going on right now. So if they could plant 50%, they'd be doing good. And I doubt that they'll even really get that much in the ground. So what that means is that the effects of that aren't going to hit us until the harvest, okay? Those foods we wouldn't have in our supply chain right now anyways, right? But come the fall, when we would be used to having Ukraine's harvest into our food supply, it's not going to be there, or it's going to be greatly reduced. And so that's where we're going to start seeing some real hurt in the global food supply. It's the same way here in the United States. We're dealing with the worst drought in 1,200 years. We're dealing with a fertilizer shortage. There's more and more articles talking about this, that it's getting really hard for farmers. It's getting hard for them to find it, and it's getting hard for them to afford it when they find it. You've got to realize that for those of you that don't farm, or maybe never have, if you look at a bag of fertilizer, if it's in a 50-pound bag, and that fertilizer has gone up 2 or 3 times, and you're just needing one bag for your garden, and you're like, man, it was $10 a bag and now it's $25 a bag. That's really high, but I can spare that extra money because I need it. What happens when you need to buy hundreds of those bags? What happens when you need to purchase tons and tons of that fertilizer? Big crop farming, that's what they have to do. And that number adds up really fast. And a lot of them, they just can't do it. They're either not going to plant, or they're planting without the fertilizer in hopes that they can have some kind of harvest. And either way means that by this fall, the harvest here in America has a pretty good likely chance of being less than normal, less than what we want. We're planting less acreage than we've ever planted before, or at least in recent history. And then we have all these other factors that go into it. So this fall could be kind of rough. Something that we haven't talked about in a while, and there's this guy that some of you may have forgotten. His name's Dr. Fakey, or at least that's what I call him. I know this is ancient history. You've already forgotten about this. Well, at least that's how Americans are. He's still out there, and he's still talking. His claim is that he believes that by this fall, there will most likely be another surge. And he also has said recently that he could see the possibility of this next surge of there needing to be some level of lockdown. We're already seeing cities like Philadelphia and places in DC, certain universities and places reinstate the thing ordinance. So it's not gone away. It's just that we're very distracted because of Ukraine and standing up for what's going on over there. That we've forgotten about. Really, it was only just a few weeks ago many Americans were still dealing with some level of imposed lockdown on them, and the possibility of that happening again is likely, and it's likely that this surge will happen in the fall. I don't know if you're picking up on the pattern here. It's interesting that the fall is also, this autumn, this fall, is also when we have the elections. And I'll just leave that there and let you kind of put 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 together. The other thing is this fits with the food supply, but it's bigger than that, is just the overall commodities market. I mean, we focus a lot on food on here because, well, that's important to us because that's how we stay alive, right? But the overall commodities market is really suffering. They're suffering supply chain issues. They're suffering, just the actual raw materials. And a lot of that right now is being exacerbated by what's going on in China. I mean, here's an article here that there's over 500 ships in Shanghai that's just sitting there. These are container ships that would normally be coming here to the United States and other places, mostly here. They're just sitting there. Because China is experiencing this zero COVID policy lockdown that is just terrorizing the people there. There's some really awful images coming out of China, if they're real, and China has sometimes they fake things, so we'll just, grain of salt kind of thing. But it's going to affect us, and it will take a little time for that to affect us. Okay, they're shut down, they're locked down of cities, of ports, of manufacturing. It's going to take a little time for that to trickle down to get to us, and because of all these problems and shortages and issues in the supply chain and commodities, it's really hurting a lot of industry. They're really having a difficult time of keeping up, of producing things, and then on top of that, there's things like an employee shortage. They just don't have enough workers to get the job done. So much so that the Washington Post here, they are saying that what needs to happen is basically what is a bailout. I mean, they don't use those words. They're talking about loans, but they're saying that the Federal Reserve needs to step in, and they need to back up the commodities market, and they need to, issue very good loans to basically give away free money is the point, to the industry and to help keep this going, because there is a real chance that with all these problems that it's going to get worse, and they indicate that it's in the near future, summer, fall time period, even to the point that they say in the article that real food shortages, real rationing, real just not having enough to get by could definitely happen if something like these bailouts, is what I call them, of these commodities doesn't happen. So another indicator that things could get bad this fall. Going back to the whole election thing that I said I wasn't going to talk about again, I guess, but well. It is kind of funny that it all fits there. And maybe that's why, and maybe it's just a coincidence. You all know how I feel about coincidences. The point is that other than the possibility of something big happening now, something just popping off big, it looks like by the end of summer, fall, first of winter, things are going to start getting pretty bad. I believe it was the CEO or president of BlackRock that said within the next 40 to 60 days, and he said this like a week or so ago, within the next 40 to 60 days that we will start seeing shortages, food prices like we've never seen, absolute shock. He said the words, you know, you need to buckle up. It's going to get bad. These young, young people, these Gen Zs and millennials, they've never seen anything like it because they've used to this lavish lifestyle, and it's going to be a complete shock. Well, if you fast forward 60 days from now, you're getting into that, summer, close to fall time period. And so we're starting to see somewhat of a pattern that a lot of these bad things, and of course the war in Ukraine, I think a lot of people are looking ahead within that time period of it could be pretty bad, that, our involvement, if our involvement happens, it could potentially be happening during that time period. There was a report a few weeks ago that was kind of backtracked, so, I don't know how legitimate it was, is that there was some leaked information that China had intended on potentially invading Taiwan by this fall. The point is, folks, this fall looks like it could be pretty rough. Now, I may be completely wrong on everything I've said, and by this fall, it could just be as normal as 1985 again. I don't know. But I don't think that that's very likely. I think that between the whole bug that, spreads around, and all the nefarious things because of that, and the food and supply chain and war and economy, this fall may not be very good for a lot of us. So my encouragement is number one, for those of you that are panicking, that think that you don't have enough time, it's possible that you have at least till the fall. Now, it's possible that tomorrow something really bad could happen and could end your prepping career and put you into the category of, survival. But the point is that I think a better case scenario is that we have at least to the fall before things start to get really critically bad. And I don't want to scare people, but yet I don't want to give them so much hope that they figure they have plenty of time and that they don't have to take it serious. So it's kind of hard to walk that fine line. The point is that be ready at any moment, because the way things are happening and changing on a global stage, and all these different factors that are going around, and all the different scenarios that are happening at once, things could change and could worsen and could get really critically bad within days or weeks. But most likely, I think at this point, by this fall, we're going to really start feeling it. Probably late spring and summer, we're going to be at the point that it's hurting us to go buy groceries. We're really feeling it. By summer into fall, we're probably going to be in the position that we're having to actually make decisions over what to pay for and what not to pay for, what bill or what other thing to pay for versus buying food, because it will be that serious, and worrying that we're not going to find what we need, and actually changing our diet because the foods we're used to just may not be available. I think we're very easily could see that scenario by this fall. So folks, continue what you're doing. Get ready. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background, and in the end, I stand by my opinion that everything we've seen, at least in the last 2 years, and I know it goes further back than that. A lot of you are going to say, oh man, they've been working on this since the 60s. Yes, I know. I'm just saying that from at least the last 2 years up into this point, pretty much all the stuff that you're seeing, it's very orchestrated. You can connect the dots all over the place and start to stand back and see a big, greater plan. And it's not a good one, folks. These people do not have your best interest at heart. Trust me. So that's why you have to seek your own independence. Become as self-sufficient as possible. Prepare for what's upon us, and get your mind strengthened and ready, and get your soul, your spiritual walk in line, because it's all going to be tested in a way that you have never experienced before. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.